Donald J. Trump is not Barack Obama. He has your back. And to the Ayatollahs, you need to understand, if you keep killing your people who are demanding a better life, Donald J. Trump is going to kill you.
I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down.
They dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. They've been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
The United States deployed 3 aircraft carrier strike groups to the Middle East in June 2025, the USS Carl Vinson, USS Nimitz, and USS Gerald R. Ford, marking the heaviest American naval presence in the region since the Afghanistan withdrawal. And now, as January 2026 begins, those carriers remain within striking distance of Iran, while 36 people lie dead from protests that erupted when Iran's rial currency collapsed to 1.47 million per US dollar, a staggering 20,000% loss of value since 1979. But here's what's truly terrifying. On January 5th, 2026, Israel's Security Cabinet held a 5-hour meeting authorizing additional strikes on Iran following Netanyahu-Trump discussions, meaning the fragile ceasefire that ended the June 2025 12-day war is now hanging by a thread while American carrier battle groups sit loaded with F-A-18 Super Hornets, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and Aegis ballistic missile interceptors, positioned to either defend Israel or obliterate what remains of Iran's nuclear program. Let's understand the scale of what happened just 6 months ago. On June 13, 2025, Israel conducted a major operation against Iran targeting nuclear facilities, military sites, and regime infrastructure. An assault so comprehensive it required the United States to get directly involved because Israel lacked the arsenal to destroy the most critical and fortified sites in Iran's nuclear program. 7 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers attacked 2 Iranian nuclear facilities in June, while more than 24 Tomahawk land attack missiles fired from a U.S. guided missile submarine hit a 3rd nuclear site, the first operational use of 14 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, the specialized bunker busters designed to attack targets deep underground. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stated the strikes sought to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally, Israel. And here's the chilling assessment. A September report from the Institute for Science and International Security concluded that, for the first time in over 15 years, Iran has no identifiable route to produce weapon-grade uranium in its centrifuge plants. But Iran didn't collapse. It retaliated. The 12-day war saw Iran fire approximately 100 missiles at Israel, killing at least 4 in southern Israel, while Israeli forces attacked Basij headquarters, Evin prison in Tehran, killing at least 71 people in the Evin prison strike alone. The violence was so intense, Trump uttered an expletive on live television and pressured Netanyahu to call off retaliatory strikes, which Israel mostly obliged. Meanwhile, U.S. Central Command deployments accounted for 41% of carrier steaming days in 2024, up from just 8% the year before, a staggering shift that reflects how Israel-Iran tensions have consumed American naval power. Typically, around 30,000 troops are based in the Middle East, but that number surged to about 40,000 troops in the region, peaking at 43,000 last October amid ongoing tensions. The USS Gerald R. Ford Strike Group, America's most advanced aircraft carrier, sailed from Virginia on June 24, 2025, with Rear Admiral Paul Lanzillotta telling reporters they're headed to the European theater but are mobile and maneuverable and can move this whole strike group 700-plus miles within one day. The Ford's arrival gave Trump the option of a 3rd carrier group in the Middle East, positioned to strike Iran within hours if ordered. And it's worth noting the firepower these carrier strike groups carry. Each typically includes an aircraft carrier, a guided missile cruiser, 2 or more destroyers, an attack submarine, and an air wing of F-A-18 Super Hornets. Naval F-35 Joint Strike Fighters currently embarked on the USS Carl Vinson shot down drones launched by Iranian-backed Houthi militants in Yemen in recent months, making it the first time the Navy used the F-35C in combat. Aegis combat system-equipped ships, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, and Ticonderoga-class cruisers provide massive air and missile defense capabilities. On October 1, 2024, U.S. Navy destroyers fired about a dozen interceptors defending Israel as the country came under attack by more than 200 missiles fired by Iran. American Patriot missile defense systems, terminal high-altitude air defense systems, and Navy destroyers like the USS Thomas Hudner, capable of defending against ballistic missiles, have been crucial to Israel's survival. What makes this genuinely alarming is how quickly the ceasefire is unraveling. The June 24, 2025 truce was supposed to bring the conflict to an end through a phased approach. 12 hours of cessation by Iran, followed by another 12 hours of cessation by both Iran and Israel, with the conflict officially ending after completion of both cycles without incident. But serious violations took place in the initial hours, killing 16 people in Iran and 4 in Israel. The ceasefire held through June, largely due to Trump's continued direct intervention with Netanyahu. But now, 6 months later, the situation is deteriorating catastrophically. Late December, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly briefed the White House on plans for fresh strikes, citing Iran's stated moves to reconstitute its ballistic missile program. Trump indicated that Iran's missile and nuclear activity could well precipitate renewed attacks. The fact of the matter is clear to see. Iran's regime is on the brink of collapse from internal pressure, and that makes it exponentially more dangerous. Protests erupted on December 28, 2025, beginning with shopkeepers and bazaar merchants in Tehran who shut their stores as the rial plummeted to 1.45 million per US dollar before slightly recovering to 1.38 million. By January 6, 2026, the rial broke its record low again, reaching 1.5 million to the dollar, then hitting 1.47 million rials on Tuesday with no signs of slowing. Inflation surged to 42.2% in December 2025, up 1.8% from November, with some estimates showing inflation at 52.6% in December. Food prices have soared by an average of 72% compared to last year. The average bottle of cooking oil doubled in price, cheese and chicken prices spiked, and imported rice disappeared from many shops. But here's what's genuinely chilling. The protests have evolved from economic grievances into calls for regime change. Demonstrators are chanting "Death to the dictator," a reference to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who holds ultimate authority. On January 8, 2026, the intensity and scale of protests increased significantly following a call from Reza Pahlavi, Crown Prince of Iran, for people to chant slogans at 20 Salbinser local time. In response, the Iranian government cut off internet and telephone services nationwide, attempting to quell the protests. At least 36 people have been killed, including 30 protesters, 4 children, and 2 members of Iran's security forces, with more than 2,000 detained. Demonstrations have reached over 280 locations in 27 of Iran's 31 provinces. Around 250 police officers and 45 members of the Revolutionary Guard's Basiji force have been injured. Meanwhile, Trump warned Iran on January 2, 2026, that the U.S. would come to the rescue of Iranians if the regime continued to crack down, and on Friday vowed Washington was locked and loaded and ready to go if Iranian authorities used violence against peaceful demonstrations. But analysts warn this could backfire catastrophically. David Roche, veteran investor and strategist with Quantum Strategy, told CNBC that Iran is not going to fall because of the intervention by the United States due to geographic and political constraints. Instead, sustained protests combined with worsening domestic economic conditions pose the greater risk. He added that the regime will probably outlast this round of protests, but they don't have any tools to address Iran's economic problems. And the government's response reveals sheer desperation. President Masoud Pezeshkian announced elimination of the subsidized exchange rate of 285,000 rials per dollar for basic goods and animal feed imports, claiming subsidies would be redirected to consumers rather than producers. The government proposed distributing monthly coupons worth 1 million tomans, about $7 at the open market rate, to every Iranian. That breaks down to approximately 22 US cents per person daily for a family of 4. The daily Sitara Sov described this policy as an economic gamble, warning that similar efforts in the past failed to stabilize prices or restore public confidence. Meanwhile, law enforcement forces used tear gas to disperse demonstrators outside Tehran's Aledin shopping center, and Judiciary Chief Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei said there would be no leniency for those labeled rioters, urging prosecutors and judges to move fast and act firmly. What's terrifying is how Iran's weakness creates escalation pressure on Israel. Netanyahu's strategy continues to rest on military strikes, not diplomacy, appearing to envisage Israel in a state of permanent friction with much of the region. Israel has made clear it will not allow Iran to re-establish a deterrence environment that sets conditions for attacks like October 7, 2023. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz warned in late June that the ceasefire would only last so long as Iran refrained from attempting to reconstitute its ballistic missile or nuclear programs, outlining an enforcement plan by which Israel would hold Iran accountable. And Israel is already acting on this. On January 6, 2026, Israel conducted at least 17 airstrikes targeting Hezbollah military infrastructure across Lebanon, the most extensive wave in recent months, striking training facilities, weapons depots, and a Radwan force compound. More than 300 people have been killed in Israeli attacks in Lebanon since the November 2024 ceasefire supposedly went into effect. But the most dangerous dynamic is the linkage across theaters. Israeli officials have signaled Lebanon has until the end of the calendar year to demonstrate compliance with UN Resolution 1701 regarding Hezbollah. Absent such progress, military action may be necessary. Trump asked Netanyahu during their December 29th meeting not to launch operations against Hezbollah, but Netanyahu warned about Hezbollah's reconstitution. And let's be clear about Iran's reconstitution. According to the Pentagon, Iran maintains the largest missile force in the Middle East, despite June strikes. Iran's parliament voted to end IAEA cooperation and began drafting a proposal to exit the Non-Proliferation Treaty. International inspectors' access has been curtailed, weapons-grade fissile stockpiles are undetermined, and there's been no movement toward Washington-Tehran talks. Meanwhile, the economic devastation is creating social collapse. According to sources speaking to foreign policy, middle-class Iranians can no longer afford whole chickens. One source describes seeing a man tear off chicken wings and run from a supermarket. Someone earning 400 million rials monthly, around $280, is now below Tehran's poverty line. The currency lost roughly 20,000% since 1979. What's genuinely alarming is the military posture this creates. As of early January 2026, according to sources in Iran, the IRGC had declared a yellow state of emergency, stopping short of a full red posture that would likely signal a much bloodier crackdown. But if the protests continue escalating, Iran could face an impossible choice. Either crack down so violently it triggers international intervention or allow the regime to fall. And here's where American carrier strike groups become the flashpoint. If Trump decides Iran is violently killing peaceful protesters beyond what America will tolerate, those three carriers sitting in the Mediterranean and Arabian Sea could launch a devastating strike campaign within hours. The USS Carl Vinson in the Arabian Sea, the USS Nimitz steaming west from the South China Sea, and the USS Gerald R. Ford in the Mediterranean collectively represent nearly 4,500 sailors on the Ford alone, with escort ships carrying Aegis combat systems capable of launching hundreds of Tomahawk cruise missiles. And Israel is preparing to act unilaterally, if needed. The January 5, 2026 Security Cabinet meeting authorizing additional strikes means Netanyahu has the green light to hit Iran's reconstituted missile facilities or resumed nuclear enrichment activities. Defense Minister Katz has publicly stated Israel will enforce the ceasefire terms, noting that since October 7, 2023, Iran is no longer immune to Israeli action. The Institute for the Study of War assessed that Israeli operations forced the Iranian government to accept the June truce, demonstrating Israel could impose costs on resistance infrastructure. But Iran hasn't been destroyed. It's been wounded, and wounded adversaries are unpredictable. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei resurfaced on June 26th in a recorded 10-minute speech, warning the United States against future attacks, defiantly proclaiming Iran would never surrender, and claiming American strikes did nothing significant. So we're staring at a scenario where Iran's regime faces existential internal pressure. Israel has authorization to strike if Iran reconstitutes threats. Trump has promised to rescue Iranian protesters, and 3 American carrier strike groups sit within range of Tehran loaded with enough firepower to decapitate the Islamic Republic's command structure in a single night. The ceasefire isn't holding, it's decomposing. Israel has killed roughly 400 Palestinians in Gaza since the October 2025 ceasefire supposedly started, continues striking Lebanon despite the November 2024 agreement, and now has Security Cabinet authorization to hit Iran again. Meanwhile, Iran's economy is imploding. Protesters are calling for the end of the regime, and the government has cut off internet and telephone services nationwide to suppress dissent. The real question isn't whether Israel and Iran will collide again. It's what happens when they do. While Iran is experiencing the largest protests since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. If Netanyahu launches the authorized strikes and Iran retaliates with its reconstituted missile forces, Trump could order the carrier strike groups to eliminate Iran's military infrastructure entirely. The Ford, Vinson, and Nimitz collectively carry air wings of F/A-18 Super Hornets, F-35C stealth fighters, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft, E-2D Hawkeye early warning planes, and MH-60 helicopters, enough combat power to conduct sustained operations against an adversary already crippled by the June strikes. And unlike June, when the goal was precision degradation of nuclear sites, a second war could aim for regime decapitation if Trump decides Iranian authorities crossed his red line on protester violence. But here's the nightmare scenario that keeps Pentagon planners awake. Iran knows it's dying, and dying adversaries take risks that rational actors avoid. If the regime believes it's going to fall anyway, either to internal protests or external strikes, what's to stop Tehran from attempting to close the Strait of Hormuz, through which much of the world's oil flows, or launching everything it has left at Israel in one final suicidal assault designed to drag the entire region into war? Iran's supreme leader may be frail and the currency may be worthless, but the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps still controls ballistic missiles, armed groups across Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, and enough remaining nuclear infrastructure to attempt a breakout sprint toward weapons capability. And the timing couldn't be more combustible. Trump captured Nicolas Maduro on January 3, 2026, an Iranian ally, proving he follows through on regime change operations. Netanyahu faces Israeli elections this year, giving him incentives to look strong. The Houthis warned they would resume attacks on U.S. vessels if Trump joined Israel's campaign. The carrier strike groups aren't just defensive, they're loaded guns pointed at Tehran. When F-35Cs shot down Houthi drones, they proved American carrier aviation dominates against Iranian-backed forces. When Navy destroyers fired interceptors defending Israel from Iranian missiles, they demonstrated U.S. naval forces are operationally integrated with Israeli defenses to a degree that makes Washington a de facto combatant. So here we are in January 2026. Iran's rial at $147 million to the dollar, protests in over 280 locations across 27 provinces, the government cutting off internet and telephone services nationwide, Trump warning he's locked and loaded to rescue protesters, Netanyahu's security cabinet authorizing additional strikes, and 3 American carrier strike groups sitting within range with enough Tomahawks, FA-18s, and F-35Cs to reduce what's left of Iran's military to rubble in a matter of days. The June ceasefire was never meant to last. It was a pause while both sides reloaded. Israel got security cabinet authorization for round 2. Iran got 6 months to reconstitute missiles and hide nuclear materials. Trump got a front-row seat to regime collapse that could either end with Iranian freedom or regional war. And those carriers? They're not there to watch. They're there to finish what the B-2 bombers started in June. And this time, there might not be anyone left in Tehran capable of agreeing to a ceasefire.